Welcome to Italian Innovators. I'm Luca Cottini, and today I'm in the company of Giovanna Bonomo Blescia, international editor for Canada's leading luxury magazine, Preferred, and author of the volume Lost and Found in Italy, which we'll discuss. Thank you, Giovanna, for accepting my invitation. It's really great to have you in the show.
Thank you, Luca. This is awesome.
So today we'll explore the role of Italian studies in shaping a professional path, an original feminine perspective on Italy, and the industry of luxury and organized travels to Italy. And I really want to start from your story. So you graduated, you majored in Italian studies at the University of Toronto. Why did you choose Italian studies as your major? And what do you do now with Italian studies?
It's easy to start things, very difficult to finish things. So whenever you're doing anything, before you do anything, do you have a strong motive to do it? So even if it's a degree or a job or anything, writing a book, you need to have a strong motive. So for me, my motive was always that of moving to Italy. I always wanted to move to Italy, and I didn't have a typical family, Italian-Canadian family, Italian-American family, the ones that go to Italy every summer, that have connections in Italy, that are, embrace the culture. I didn't have that because my father immigrated when he was a teenager and gave up his citizenship and just focused on Canada, because for him, Canada was the future and Italy was probably symbolic and a memory of very hard times, because he had a very hard life in Sicily, post-war. And so it wasn't a cultural richness, let's say, that I grew up with, but I knew that I had it. So I had this deep ancestral pull. So for me, going to the University of Toronto and studying Italian wasn't what maybe many assume as an easy degree because you're Italian. It's not, because it's actually a very rigorous degree that teaches you all facets of Italian culture, politics, and language. And, it's just a very rich discipline that allowed me to, that really opened my eyes and allowed me to take that next step after university to go to Italy.
In your work as the international editor for the Canadian luxury magazine Preferred, you present Italy now as a traveling journalist, unveiling its premium destinations and really hidden gems. What does a high-end readership expect or dream about Italy? And in your opinion, what are the distinguishing features of the Italian way to luxury?
So let's put it this way. Because of the magazine, I was introduced to the Michelin star world, and I wasn't part of this world, and I didn't feel worthy of this world. And I told my, publisher, I think you have the wrong person, because I don't know anything about, this very elite, very luxurious world. And he said, Giovanna, it's because you don't that you can give another perspective. And it was actually because of this role that my eyes were opened to a different world, and this world of luxury. So when we're looking at our readers, is really fascinating, because they're like the Michelin star travelers and then the all-you-can-eat travelers. And I think I was the all-you-can-eat traveler. And the Michelin traveler is looking for an experience, is looking to be enriched, and is looking for excellence. And so that means that they're not consuming as many cities or experiences as they can in each trip. What they're doing is that they slow down and they're absorbing more and coming away with a lot more than they would if they were trying to consume everything all at once. So my role is to get into this world and to extract those experiences, and through my own lens, share what I've experienced with them.
And certainly it is the work of going beyond the surface of stereotypes or kind of a standardized way of traveling, but really going into the core of the Italian experience. You use the word absorb, really absorb the core of this experience and learn from it, not just being exposed to it and then get back like unchanged. So the investment on this travel to Italy as a form of education in a way. Now, you also present a different image of Italy in your book, Lost and Found in Italy. And you present a different image of Italy through what you call an emotional journey or a multi-sensorial experience, which connects narration to illustrations, Spotify playlists, or must-see attractions. In your work, you choose to present Italy through the stories of 6 outsiders, all women of different ages and origins, who were lost and found themselves in the peninsula. You are actually one of them. What did a Canadian woman like you find in Italy? What made your life and theirs nuova, like the Vita Nuova of Dante? And what new Italy can a reader see from a feminine perspective?
You know, I'm going to use the cliche, I found myself, but let's unpack that a little bit so that we understand what that means. Italy, and Maria Grazia Cucinotta says this in the preface of the book, that Italy is a mirror, and that mirror, you know, holds up to us who we are in nel bene e nel male, for better or for worse. And it actually brings out the worst part of us, the parts of us that maybe we didn't develop at home because we were cushioned or because we had, you know, a totally different upbringing. So Italy challenges you. And if you're going to live here, you're going to be faced with a number of challenges. And it's through those challenges and maybe some unfortunate events, some challenges, some the difficulties that Italy presents, that you discover what you didn't know about yourself. And so that's what I mean by finding myself in Italy. I had to go through a lot of the challenges in order to develop who I am today.
This is also the experience of, say, study abroad for many students. The transition from an idea or an ideal image of Italy to a real Italy, which is, as you described, many times difficult, and an Italy that requires the decision to walk a path, to mature, to get out of a comfort zone and really learn something about yourself. And this is really the experience that a lot of students have in studying abroad. It's one of the most enriching parts for me as a professor, like seeing them coming back changed.
You really hope so. And I think that if you're thinking of studying abroad or moving or anything, you should really be engaged in a mission of self-understanding, not just going on the tours, but finding yourself within the context of your surroundings and how you feel, and then developing that understanding that about yourself, so that when you leave, you come away different, like you said, than when you went in.
Lost and Found, you inaugurated a blog and a series. So your storytelling method not only offers serial narration, so you're now working at the 2nd volume, but also a real platform to share stories and experiences. So Italy, in a way, is the center of this ideal community of readers and storytellers. How is your Italian heritage transformed in dialogue with this community, and what is the Italian community now for you?
The Italian community means it means different things to different people, right? And so, of course, we can share. And I think when we look at Italian Canadians or Italian Americans of our generation, of, you know, how our parents raised us, which is totally different than how we raise our kids today. I mean, it's a miracle that we're alive, but it's not all that. I think that every experience is very different. And what I find that's really, truly amazing is that people of my generation, even a little bit older, they grew up bullied for being Italian. And so we had to deal with the stereotypes, and I was heavily, heavily bullied. But the beautiful thing is that even though the more they bullied me, the more I wanted to know my culture. So my parents, my name is Giovanna, but everyone was calling me Joanna, so that I would fit in to the culture, you know, and Canadian culture. And when I discovered that my name was Giovanna, I said, forget that, I'm Giovanna. And the more bullying came. But I think that when you embrace your heritage, then you can give more to your community than if you're trying to be like everybody else.
Definitely the mindset of the Italians or that were migrating, but in general of all migrants, is really to emerge, to find in the distinction an element of value, and also in the imagination to construct an original path, really outside the pre-made scheme. So I would say that imagination is really the great resource of someone who is coming from a different context or community. This part of the Italian community that you also find in Italy? How does that differ from the Italian community that you found in Canada?
Very different. I mean, we're talking about totally different worlds. I had a different idea of what it meant to be Italian in Canada than what it is to be in Italy. And so I try not to think of myself personally in terms of a community, but as an individual in this world, trying to carve a path and being an inspiration for others to do the same. Because I think sometimes it's important to be, in a community, but not to the point where you are conformed then to a certain way of thinking, because the beauty that Italy gives you is that opportunity to discover yourself. And I think that if you try too hard to be part of a community, you miss out on the opportunity to discover yourself.
So you worked on luxury, you work on this aspect of storytelling, but you also interact in your work with the industry of North American travel to Italy. And in particular, you collaborated with the renowned brand Perillo Tours. How does one plan an original trip to Italy? How do you reconcile the must-haves, so Rome, Florence, Venice, with the hidden gems that you were talking about, or the discovery? And how do you reconcile the historical patrimony with modern Italy? Because this is a nation that has a lot of things that are going on and a lot of pieces of innovation. How would you walk someone into discovering a genuine Italy beyond the postcard image?
We have very different philosophies when it comes to tours. Obviously, his are Perillo Tours is the greatest Italian operator for tours in Italy since forever, and they give people amazing experiences. Again, I'm the one that always wants to go on my own path, and I think Apollo said it best when he said, "Know thyself." And when you know yourself, you'll know exactly the kind of experience you want to have abroad. So I think that if you don't know the country, then you might take a tour the first time just to get, a lay of the land and understand it. But if you really want to have a quality experience, you really want to know yourself and know going in the type of experiences you want to have, what's important to you, and go out and search for that, even if you have to do it alone.
I want to ask another follow-up question related to the conditions of traveling that the pandemic set. How does an instrument like the Travel World virtual reality, which was promoted by Perillo during the pandemic, enhance or reinvent the Italian tour?
Well, I think that VR is going to be, it's so important for us going into the future. Right now, it's a fun tool to get people, into a feeling of Italy or to prepare them for what to expect. But I think as technology develops further, we're going to be able to use virtual reality not only to place ourselves in different environments, but to manipulate the experience that we want to have. Because even if you can't travel there, because the pandemic has changed everything, sustainability now is, it's really opened our eyes to how unsustainable we've been in terms of travel, just traveling all the time. So there are going to be many people who are maybe not even travel again. So VR gives that opportunity to let the imagination run wild, leveraging technology, and then seeing what can come out of that. And I think the mind is just such an incredibly creative tool that by leveraging these technologies, we can take our mind even where the body can't go.
This fits well into the storytelling mode that you start with your book. So traveling as a form of narration, as a form of knowledge, and as a way to know through imagination and have an experience, a real experience through imagination in a way. Fiction is this space where we experience reality in this imaginary or fictional world, but where we actually learn something about ourselves in a way that is somewhat deeper. So
storytelling is just so powerful, and to motivate people. Ever since the book came out, people are, so many people are emailing me saying, I want to buy a property in Italy. I want to move to Italy, because you're taking them on a journey. It's not about Rome or the Trevi Fountain. It's maybe something that's going to happen on your way to get there. And so through storytelling, you can really take people on journeys. You can help them discover things within themselves by a little bit provoking some emotions, maybe something that's been laying dormant. And through storytelling, you can awaken those senses.
And this is also something that might help also with the growing market of the houses that have been sold in Sicily or in southern Italy to be refurbished for like €1 or 100 euros, which might seem fantastic, but it's a market that requires this availability to walk a path. It's not enough to buy a house or refurbish it, and to have that kind of experience, you need to really be able to walk that path, to make yourself available to risk in an uncharted land.
That's where the
core
story
of your project.
is. That's the story. That's the story. So not everyone should do it. I personally wouldn't buy a €1 home because I am not a rentaholic. I'm not one of those people. That's not where I find the journey. Your journey is where your passion is. So if you love renovating, get a €1 home. You're going to have a whole bunch of problems. And that's great, because that's where you find yourself. I think we're living in a society, and we're living in a time where people, they want to go from A to Z, and they don't want all the letters in between. But it's in all of that getting lost in those detours that where the memories are made. It's not in the actual destination, it's getting there. And so, it's through those challenges that the story lies. And that's what people want to hear, is what were the challenges? And how did you get over it? Because if you say, I went to Italy and I just love it, I'm having so much fun, who wants to hear it? Food was great.
Everybody wants to hear that. But
No, you don't want to hear that, because that's not even the truth, and just like a picture on Instagram maybe represents 10 seconds of a 24-hour day, so do those stories. So you really want to, get your hands dirty and make some mistakes, face those challenges, and see what comes out on the other side.
This path of really getting to know another world through the language, or of acquiring a different perspective, is something that you also work on in your other side of your professional life. We work as a English transformation coach at Sky Italia, one of the most important TV networks in Italy. So why studying a language well coincides with a perspective shift and a professional opportunity for growth? Also for Italians when they study English, and what does a language spoken confidently bring to a curriculum?
I love this question so much. Really, ask this to everyone every time and see what answers you get, because it's such an important conversation. We just finished shooting a documentary on the book, and I interviewed many people. One of them is an American who speaks Latin fluently. His name is Luke Ranieri. He's a genius. He has like millions of followers. I don't know. This guy is incredible. He speaks Latin fluently, and and we're talking why is it important? Why is it important to speak English for Italians? Why is it important for us expats to speak Italian? Forget the Latin, that's a whole other universe. But why these two? Why is language so important? And, it really goes beyond the thesis that English is a passport. I don't like that. I like to see it as is a way of an Italian understanding my world, and by me knowing Italian, understanding their world, because words are worlds. And once we know the language, even if it's not perfect, what you're saying is, I want to know where you come from and you want to know where I come from. And it's from there that real communication happens, real relationships happen. But if I expect an Italian to conform to me because English is a passport, I've missed out on the gold, and the gold is really entering that world, understanding idioms, understanding philosophies, understanding words that can't be translated into English, and feeling the emotion behind it. So language is just so powerful, and it provides that extra layer of understanding on both sides.
So not just translating words, as Google Translate would do, but really translating words, translating mindsets, which is really a way to acquire that perspective shifts that you talk about, and gain a much broader flexibility and understanding of the world. This is really fascinating, and really thank you so much for the conversation. And we talked about really a different Italy today, seen from the outside, from a feminine standpoint, from an affective perspective, as you just mentioned, like the language is a way to enter effectively into a world. And we discussed the industry, travel industry, and new forms of organized travel from North America to Italy, and also the impact of Italian studies in shaping a bilingual and international career. So thank you very much for being with us today. It was really a pleasure.
A big pleasure for me, Luca.
And thanks everybody for watching. And I invite you to subscribe to this channel or to the newsletter on the webpage of the show at www.italianinnovators.com to receive notifications of new episodes and know more about the project. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn profile. You can also follow Giovanna on her LinkedIn profile, or on Instagram at Italian Innovators for updates, news, and additional materials. Thanks again for your support. Arrivederci alla prossima.
Grazie mille, grazie mille.